Your new salary is $118,000. I stared at Caleb Voss, then at the paper. Then back at Caleb. There's a page missing. There isn't. I had been making $214,000. For about 5 seconds, my brain refused to perform subtraction. Apparently 17 years in aviation had prepared me for hydraulic failures, electrical faults, and emergency diversions, but not for watching $96,000 disappear between 2 pieces of corporate stationery. Caleb folded his hands. This is part of the restructuring. You cut my pay almost in half. Your role has been realigned. I looked at the new title. Maintenance Program Manager. Yesterday, I had been Senior Director of Maintenance Reliability. Same building, same fleet. Apparently my mortgage had not been invited to the realignment meeting. What exactly is being removed from my responsibilities? Caleb slid another document toward me. I read it. Reliability reviews, deferred maintenance oversight, maintenance control escalation, safety trend meetings, fleet irregularity reporting. My responsibilities had survived the restructuring beautifully. My salary lost half its scope, I said. The liability seems surprisingly healthy. Caleb did not smile. Monica Shaw from finance was sitting beside him with the expression of someone who had personally discovered arithmetic. This compensation is aligned with market benchmarks, she said. For which market? Substitute teachers? Lauren? Caleb used my name softly. That was usually when executives were about to explain why something painful was actually a growth opportunity. You've been here 17 years. We value your experience. Not at yesterday's price. His jaw tightened. The company needs flexibility. So do knees. You still don't remove half of one and call it optimization. Monica looked down. She might have been hiding a reaction. Caleb pushed a pen toward me. We need your acknowledgement today. And if I don't sign, you should consider whether Aerovale is still the right fit. There it was. Not a threat. Corporate America had evolved beyond threats. We had fit. I left the room without signing. At 10:40, Tyler Grant was announced as the new Director of Maintenance Reliability. 31 years old. 3 years in management. Nice suit. Very good hair. I disliked him immediately, which I later learned was unfair. At 1:15, my access permissions changed. At 2:30, my office was reassigned. At 3:05, an assistant handed me a box for my personal things, even though I technically still worked there. Nothing says valued employee like a medium cardboard box before lunch has fully settled. Then, at 4:17, Reggie Cole from Night Maintenance called me. Lauren, quick question. Why are you still listed as Final Reliability Authority? I stopped packing. What? I'm looking at tomorrow's fleet control sheet. Tyler's listed as Director. Okay, but the escalation signature still goes to you. I logged into the maintenance portal. My title had changed. My salary had changed. My office had changed. But beside 38 aircraft, under Final Maintenance Reliability Authority, was my name. Lauren Mitchell. I called Caleb. He declined the call. I emailed Monica. No response. Then Tyler appeared at my doorway holding a stack of documents. I was told you need to sign these before you leave. I looked at the top page. Fleet Release Authority Acknowledgement. My name was already printed beneath the signature line. I looked at Tyler. Did anyone explain what they're asking me to sign? His face changed. No. That was when I understood the real restructuring. They had not replaced me. They had replaced my paycheck. Tyler was still holding the fleet release packet when I closed my office door. Sit down, he did. That annoyed me too. I had decided based on his haircut and promotion that he was probably incapable of sitting without a leadership podcast playing somewhere nearby. What did Caleb tell you your authority was? I asked. That I'd oversee reliability. Define oversee. Tyler looked at the documents. That sounded more specific when he said it. Good. At least he knew when he did not know something. I showed him the fleet control screen. My name is still the Final Escalation Authority. He leaned closer. That's wrong. Yes. I'm supposed to be replacing you. Financially, you've done an outstanding job. He ignored that. Why would they leave your name? Because responsibility is harder to transfer than furniture. Tyler flipped through the packet. He stopped at one page. This inspection interval is outdated. I looked. He was right. A reliability threshold had been copied from the previous revision. I had reviewed that packet twice. You caught that quickly. I worked propulsion analytics before management. I felt a small, inconvenient crack form in the version of Tyler I had built in my head. At 7:30 that evening, we joined Reggie Cole on the maintenance floor. Reggie had worked nights for 26 years and communicated primarily through skepticism. He looked at Tyler. "So you're the new Lauren?" Tyler glanced at me. "I'm getting the sense that's not a compliment. It isn't an insult either, yet." We reviewed 2 aircraft with repeat write-ups. On the second one, Tyler noticed a vibration trend I had dismissed as sensor scatter. He asked for the last 6 maintenance events. I told him the pattern did not support a mechanical issue. He plotted them anyway. The vibration increased after every high cycle day. I stared at the graph. "Well?" Reggie folded his arms. "You gonna say it?" I was wrong. Reggie looked genuinely disappointed. "I had money on you blaming the computer." "I considered it." Tyler smiled. "I did not. Not immediately. Then I did. Small, annoying, human." Before we left, Tyler handed me another document. "Caleb wants me to sign this tomorrow." It transferred authority for deferred maintenance review to him. "Do you understand everything listed here?" "No." "Then don't sign it." He said it's administrative. Nothing involving aircraft becomes safer because somebody calls it administrative. Tyler rubbed his forehead. "What happens if I refuse?" I looked at the cardboard box still sitting in my old office. "I have a spare box." He laughed once, then stopped. At 10:12 p.m., Caleb emailed both of us. "Effective immediately, Lauren Mitchell will support Tyler Grant during the leadership transition to ensure uninterrupted operational accountability." I read the sentence 3 times. My title had been reduced, my pay had been reduced, but apparently uninterrupted accountability still had my home address. Tuesday morning, I did something Arrowvale had never seen from me in 17 years. I did exactly my job, nothing more. At 8:05, Maintenance Control called about a deferred inspection requiring director-level review. I forwarded it to Tyler. At 8:22, Finance wanted my approval on overtime allocation, outside my new scope. At 9:10, Operations asked me to chair the reliability call. I'm a program manager now. By 10, people had started looking at me like I had personally hidden the coffee filters. Caleb found me near the maintenance control room. "You're obstructing the transition." "I'm following the restructuring. We expect reasonable cooperation." "I am being extremely cooperative with the job description you gave me." "You know what I mean. That's becoming a recurring problem around here." His face tightened. "You've always been a team player." That almost made me laugh. Companies love calling you a team player immediately before explaining why you should perform 2 positions for the price of 1. Tyler joined us. "I need approval to add 2 mechanics tonight." Caleb turned to him. "Use existing staffing. We're short. Then reprioritize." "For which aircraft?" Caleb paused. He had entered the dangerous region where the conversation contained actual airplanes. "Work with Lauren." I looked at him. "My new position has no staffing authority." Caleb exhaled slowly. "You 2 need to stop weaponizing job descriptions. Then stop using them as weapons." That was one of the rare times the good line arrived on schedule. By afternoon, delays began stacking up. Nothing catastrophic. A review took 40 minutes instead of 10. A parts escalation sat unanswered because the approval tree pointed to Tyler, whose access had not been activated. 1 aircraft departed late because 3 departments each assumed someone else owned the final review. For years, I had quietly solved those gaps. A text here, a call there, a signature while eating lunch. I had thought that made me useful. Watching the system struggle without those invisible fixes made me realize something uglier. I had helped hide how badly designed it was. Reggie found me staring at the delay board. "You enjoying this?" "No." "Could have fooled me." "I don't want flights delayed." "You want Caleb embarrassed." "Yes." He nodded. 2 things can be true. That evening, we reviewed deferred items from the previous month. One pattern bothered me. More discrepancies were being carried forward instead of fully resolved. Most were permissible individually. Together, they suggested maintenance teams were being encouraged to protect aircraft availability numbers. I showed Tyler. He frowned. "Who approved these extensions?" "Different supervisors. But the language is identical." "Exactly." Then we found the phrase at the bottom of 9 separate entries, operational continuity priority. Tyler looked at me. "What does that mean?" "In plain English?" "Yes. Somebody taught maintenance people to write, "Please don't ruin the schedule," in a way that sounds responsible. He scrolled farther. One aircraft had the phrase 4 times in 12 days. Same tail number, same system family. Different symptoms. Tyler stopped smiling. So what do we do? I looked at the clock. Tuesday had just become more interesting. We stopped treating this like paperwork. I missed Evan's school concert Tuesday night. Again. He had one solo. 8 measures on the saxophone. I knew because he had practiced them approximately 400,000 times in our living room. I arrived after the auditorium lights came on. Parents were folding chairs. Evan stood near the stage holding his instrument case. "You missed it, I know. They changed my part." "What?" "I got 12 measures. That's great. You missed those too." There is no useful corporate language for disappointing your 13-year-old. No alignment, no transition strategy, no revised scope. Just a kid standing under bad fluorescent lighting while you realize the job that cut your pay still managed to take your evening. In the car, I apologized. Evan watched traffic through the window. "Did something happen with a plane?" "Not exactly. So it could have waited?" I gripped the steering wheel. "I thought I needed to be there." "They cut your job in half. My pay. Whatever." He looked at me. "Why do they still get all of you?" I had spent 17 years answering difficult questions for executives. My son defeated me in 9 words. At home, I reheated pasta and forgot about it until the microwave beeped twice. Then I opened my laptop. I reviewed every document connected to my demotion. My formal authority had changed Monday at 1:15 p.m., yet 7 operational systems still listed me as final reliability authority. 2 emergency call trees still routed to my phone. 3 manuals named my old title and my name, and the deferred maintenance escalation procedure still required my approval. I drafted an email, deleted it, drafted a harsher one, deleted that too. The 3rd version was boring. Boring was safer. I formally requested removal of my name from every responsibility outside my new position and asked Arrowvale to identify the individual assuming each authority. I copied Caleb, Monica, Tyler, legal, and compliance. Then I hesitated over send. Some small part of me still believed I should fix everything quietly. That part had paid for a lot of company problems with my evenings. I sent it. At 7:03 Wednesday morning, Monica replied, "We appreciate your patience while administrative systems catch up with organizational changes." No deadline, no names, no correction. At 7:16, Tyler called. "Tail 604 is back." That was the aircraft we had flagged Tuesday. "What happened?" "Auxiliary control fault during startup. Cleared after reset." "Again? 3rd time this week. Keep it out of service." Silence. Then Tyler said, "Caleb already told operations it would fly the noon departure." I closed my eyes. "Did you sign the release?" "No." "Lauren?" "Yes." "He told me if I don't make decisions, he'll find someone who will." I looked at Evan's empty saxophone chair across the kitchen. "Then let's make the right one before he finds the wrong person." Wednesday, 8:11 a.m. Tail 604 sat at gate 27 with its doors closed and no passengers aboard. Exactly where I wanted it. Operations wanted the opposite. Caleb arrived carrying a tablet and irritation. The fault cleared. Tyler stood beside the maintenance cart. "It reset, same thing." "No," I said. "A reset means the symptom stopped. It does not explain why it happened." Caleb looked at me. "You are not the director." "Correct. Then let Tyler decide." Tyler swallowed. "I'm holding the aircraft." For the first time all week, Caleb looked at him as a person rather than a job title. "Based on what?" "Repeat events across the same control family." "Any hard failure?" "No." "Then you're grounding a revenue flight over a pattern." Tyler nodded. "That's what reliability is." I almost smiled. He had learned fast. Or maybe I had finally stopped assuming he needed me to teach him everything. Caleb stepped closer. "We have 162 booked passengers." Tyler said nothing. Caleb turned to me. "Talk some sense into him." I stared at him. Monday I was too expensive to remain director. Wednesday apparently my sense had retained premium value. We inspect it. Caleb walked away without answering. Reggie led the troubleshooting team. For 2 hours nothing obvious appeared. Then a mechanic found heat discoloration near a connector behind an access panel. The connector looked acceptable from the front. Behind it, one pin showed intermittent arcing. Not dramatic. Not flames. Not a movie disaster waiting beneath the floor. just a small electrical defect capable of producing the repeated faults we had been seeing. Reggie held up the connector. Ugly little thing, Tyler stared at it. That caused all three events? Likely, I corrected him. Likely contributed. Reggie looked between us. Great, now there are two of her. The repair required additional inspection across several aircraft using the same component batch. Caleb was furious. Monica wanted to know the cost before approving the expanded check. Reggie said, Tell her electricity charge is extra when finance gets involved. I laughed, then immediately felt guilty because 50 people were working overtime. By late afternoon, 3 additional connectors showed early signs of degradation. None had failed. We had caught them. That mattered. Tyler sat beside me in the maintenance office. I almost released 604. But you didn't, because you were here. No. He looked at me. You held it after Caleb pressured you. That was your decision. He rubbed both hands over his face. I hate this job. Congratulations. Now you understand management. At 6:40, Caleb sent a message ordering us to avoid unnecessary fleet-wide actions without executive authorization. 10 minutes later, legal responded to my request from the night before. They confirmed my demotion was effective Monday. They also confirmed I no longer held director-level authority. I read the sentence twice. Then I opened the maintenance manuals. My name was still there. They had finally put in writing that I was not responsible. They simply had not stopped using me as if I were. Thursday morning, I gave Caleb one final chance. Not because he deserved it, because I wanted to know I had exhausted the boring options before using the expensive one. I brought printed copies of my demotion letter, legal's confirmation, and the operational manuals still listing me as final authority. Caleb barely looked at them. The manuals will be updated. When? During the next revision cycle. That could take weeks. Then support the transition. You have formally removed my authority. We have changed your title. Legal says authority too. He leaned back. Lauren, you understand how organizations work. I'm beginning to. Monica sat beside him. She said changing all documentation immediately would create operational disruption. I looked at her. The inaccurate documentation is the disruption. We disagree. No, you dislike the timing. Caleb stood. If you continue escalating this, you are putting the company at risk. That sentence settled something in me. For 17 years, whenever Aerovale had a risk, I tried to absorb it. Stay late, take the call, fix the process, sign the document. This time, the risk belonged where it had been created. I returned to my desk and called our assigned FAA maintenance oversight contact. My hands shook. That annoyed me. I had imagined this moment with more moral certainty and better posture. Instead, I knocked over my coffee while dialing. It soaked 3 sticky notes and 1 reimbursement form. Revolution apparently is damp. I explained the restructuring. I explained that Aerovale had formally removed my authority, but still listed me in operational control documents. I described the repeat maintenance items and the uncertainty over who held final reliability responsibility. I did not ask anyone to ground an aircraft. I did not accuse Caleb of crimes. I did not say the fleet was unsafe. I said something simpler. Our documents no longer match who actually has authority. The inspector asked me to send supporting records. I did. Then I sat there feeling sick. Tyler appeared 10 minutes later. You called? Yes. He looked scared. Are we in trouble? I don't know. Are you? Probably. That afternoon, 2 FAA inspectors arrived. By 3, they were reviewing authority matrices, deferred item procedures, training records, and manual revisions. By 5:20, they had questions Aerovale could not answer quickly. Who replaced me for final reliability review? Tyler. Where was his formal authorization? Pending. Who approved items between Monday and Thursday? Depends on the system. Why did some systems still route to me? Administrative lag. One inspector looked at Caleb. How many aircraft depend on these procedures? Caleb did not answer immediately. That was the first time I understand the size of the problem. At 7:12 p.m., the first aircraft was removed from Friday's schedule pending documentation review. Not because it was mechanically unsafe, because Aerovale could not prove, cleanly and consistently, who had exercised the required authority. Then a second aircraft disappeared from the board, then a third. Reggie stood beside me. Well? What? You made one call. I reported one problem. He looked at the board. The problem appears to have friends. Friday started with 11 aircraft unavailable. By 8 a.m., there were 19. By 10:30, 27. The departure board looked like someone was slowly erasing Aerovale. Passengers saw cancellations. Inside maintenance control, we saw paperwork. Missing authorization letters, conflicting approval chains. Training sign-offs completed after people had already been assigned responsibilities. Deferred items reviewed under a title that no longer existed. None of those things meant every airplane was broken. That was the point Caleb kept missing. Aviation does not run on probably. It runs on being able to show who checked what, when, under which authority. Caleb stormed into maintenance control. This is unnecessary. The FAA inspector did not look up. Which part? The scale. Then provide the records. Caleb turned to me. Fix this. I almost laughed. Under which title? This is not the time. It became the time Monday. Tyler stepped between us before the conversation improved into unemployment. We need a clean authority map. Caleb pointed at him. You caused this by refusing operational decisions. Tyler went pale. Then something changed. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe he had finally spent enough time being blamed for powers he was never given. She didn't ground the fleet, he said. Caleb stared at him. Tyler continued. We lost track of who was responsible for keeping it in the air. Nobody spoke. Reggie quietly said, Kid's growing on me. By noon, Aerovale voluntarily paused the remaining departures while teams reconciled manuals and authority records. For 3 hours, the entire active fleet sat. That sentence later appeared in headlines. It sounded dramatic. The real scene was less glamorous. Mechanics eating vending machine crackers. Schedulers arguing over hotel rooms. Customer service agents being yelled at by people who had every right to be angry. A supervisor crying in a stairwell because she had not slept. Consequences are usually messier than revenge fantasies. I helped. That surprised Caleb. It surprised me too. I had made the call, but I did not want Aerovale to fail. Thousands of employees had nothing to do with Monica's spreadsheet or Caleb's restructuring. So I worked beside Tyler rebuilding the authority matrix. At 4:15, we found another problem. Monica's cost reduction plan had eliminated 3 reliability analyst positions 2 months earlier. Their reviews had been redistributed informally. No updated workload analysis existed. Tyler stared at the staffing chart. They removed the people who were supposed to catch trends. Yes. And then promoted me to oversee the trends. Yes. With fewer analysts. Yes. He looked offended by mathematics. Did anyone think this through? Finance did. That was not what I asked. By evening, the first aircraft returned to service. Then another. The fleet would recover. But the company had lost a day of operations, millions in revenue, and something harder to calculate. Credibility. At 9:40 p.m., Evan texted me. Are you coming home? I looked at the board. Then at Tyler. He nodded. For once, I left. The investigation started the following Monday. I expected Caleb to be questioned. I did not expect them to question me for 4 hours. Why did so many procedures depend on your personal review? The outside investigator asked it without accusation. That somehow made it worse, because I had the experience. That is not what I asked. I hated when people used my own style against me. She showed me call records. Supervisors contacted me directly instead of using formal escalation channels. Analysts sent me trend questions because I could answer faster than the database. Maintenance control often waited for my opinion, even when another manager technically had authority. You became a single point of failure, she said. I became useful. Those are not mutually exclusive. That one hurt. I had spent years believing being difficult to replace proved my value. Maybe it also proved I had failed to build enough replacements. Tyler testified after me. Later, he found me near the vending machines. You okay? No, good. I looked at him. He shrugged. You told me being uncomfortable means we're probably discussing the right thing. I say terrible things. You really do. The investigation found that my demotion had been rushed primarily to hit a cost reduction target before refinancing discussions. Monica's model projected annual savings from removing senior roles. It did not include retraining costs, coverage gaps, flight cancellations, or the radical financial concept known as consequences. But the report also criticized me. I had allowed too much informal dependence. I had trained people well technically, but poorly in replacing my decision-making role. I had sometimes solved problems myself, because teaching someone else took longer. That night I told Evan, "So you were too good at your job?" "No." He waited. "I was too convinced I needed to be the one doing it." He nodded. "That sounds more like you." Children are wonderful for maintaining executive humility. For the next 3 weeks, I helped Tyler document every responsibility. Not because Caleb asked. Caleb had been placed on administrative leave. I did it because I did not want another person sitting where I had sat, discovering that the company depended on responsibilities nobody had bothered to name. Tyler began leading the work. I deliberately stopped correcting him before he finished speaking. That was harder than I expected. Once, he proposed a reliability threshold I thought was too conservative. I challenged it. He showed me the data. He was right. I apologized in front of the team. Reggie leaned toward another mechanic. "Write down the date." "I can hear you." That's why I said it loud. By the end of the month, Arrowvale had a clear authority map, cross-trained analysts, and no single signature point tied to one person. For the first time, the system looked stronger without depending on me. It should have felt threatening. Instead, it felt strangely peaceful. Caleb Voss did not go to prison. Monica Shaw did not leave the building in handcuffs. Reality can be disappointing if you have developed expensive tastes in corporate revenge. The board removed Caleb as COO after concluding he had pushed the restructuring without adequate operational review, and then pressured managers to preserve schedules despite unresolved authority gaps. Monica was terminated after investigators found her savings model excluded obvious transition costs, and that she had presented projected reductions as realized efficiencies. Her spreadsheet had been technically beautiful. The assumptions beneath it had been fiction. Arrowvale paid for the difference. Canceled flights, passenger compensation, hotels, charter capacity, overtime, regulatory review, retraining. The savings from my salary looked microscopic by the time accounting finished counting the week. Reggie printed the final cost estimate and taped it above the break room microwave. Someone wrote, "Salary normalization" underneath. I did not remove it. Arrowvale offered me my old job back. Same title, higher salary, retention bonus. Caleb's former executive office was mentioned with suspicious enthusiasm. I said no. The interim COO blinked. "You spent weeks repairing the department." "Yes." "So why leave?" "Because Tyler should lead it." Tyler nearly dropped his coffee. The room went quiet. He said, "Excuse me? You heard me. I have 4 months in this role. You also had an aircraft when the COO told you not to." That is a strange resume bullet. It's a useful one. I recommended Tyler on 3 conditions. He receive actual staffing authority. He received the analyst positions finance had eliminated, and he build a deputy strong enough to disagree with him. The board approved all 3. Tyler accepted only after asking me to stay 90 days as an advisor. I agreed. Then I made one more request. We reviewed the people Arrowvale had consistently rated as too technical, not executive enough, or difficult in meetings. Funny how many talented people become difficult immediately after noticing something expensive. One was Priya Nair, a reliability engineer whose promotion had been delayed twice because she needed stronger presence. Her data work had caught a component trend 6 months before anyone else. Another was Marcus Bell, a maintenance supervisor who had refused an unrealistic turnaround target and been labeled inflexible. I put their names in front of Tyler. Build with people who make you uncomfortable for useful reasons. He looked at the list. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." "For where?" I smiled. That part I'd kept to myself. A major aviation services group was creating an independent reliability and safety center in Fort Worth. They wanted me to build the team, not run every decision. Build the people who would. For the first time in 17 years, changing jobs did not feel like losing my identity. It felt like finally separating my identity from one company badge. 1 year later, our Reliability and Safety Center had 27 people. None of them worked the way I did. That was intentional. Priya could find patterns in maintenance data that I would stare at for an hour and call interesting. Marcus could walk onto a maintenance floor, say 6 words, and learn more than most managers got from a week of meetings. Reggie joined us 3 days a month as a field advisor. He refused the title senior consultant. Sounds like I should own loafers. We listed him as technical advisor. He still wore the same boots. Tyler stayed at Arrowvale and rebuilt the reliability department. 6 months later, our two organizations began sharing anonymized trend data. That amused both of us. The company that once tried to save money by cutting my salary now paid my new employer for analytics support. I considered framing the first invoice. I did not. Mostly because Priya told me it would be tacky. She was right. Again, our team rule was simple. No one owned a safety concern. If you saw it, you raised it. If someone disagreed, they challenged the evidence, not the person's rank. And every critical role had a trained backup. Especially mine. That last part took work. I still had the instinct to answer every question. Marcus once stopped me in the middle of a meeting. "Lauren," Priya asked James. "I know the answer." "So does James." I closed my mouth. Personal growth is rarely cinematic. Sometimes it is just not interrupting. At Arrowvale, Tyler promoted 2 analysts and appointed Priya's former colleague as his deputy. The fleet recovered. The company survived. Passengers forgot the shutdown long before employees did. That was probably healthy. On a Friday afternoon, Tyler visited our center. He looked around my office. "Do I get one of these if I come work for you someday?" "Eventually." "Title?" "Probably." "Budget?" I stared at him. "Now you're asking dangerous questions." He laughed. At 4:30 my phone buzzed. An alert from work. Nothing critical. Then Evan texted. "Game starts at 6. You remember, right?" I looked at the work alert again. Old Lauren would have opened it. Old Lauren would have told herself 5 minutes. 5 minutes would become 40. 40 would become another empty chair in a school gym. I turned the phone face down. At 5:42, I was sitting in the bleachers when Evan ran onto the court. He spotted me. Not dramatically. Just one quick glance. Then he smiled. My phone stayed in my bag. The center continued operating. No aircraft fell from the sky. No executive called my house. Nobody needed me to be irreplaceable. After 17 years, I finally understood that was not a loss of importance. It was proof I had built something strong. 18 months later, I was halfway through dinner when Priya texted me. A component trend had triggered an internal review. No emergency, no crisis, just the system doing what we had designed it to do. I typed, "Need me?" 3 dots appeared. Then, "No, just keeping you informed." I stared at the message longer than necessary. Evan looked across the table. "Are you going back to work?" "No." He narrowed his eyes. "You said that weird." "I'm practicing." He returned to his burger. At Arrowvale, Tyler was still director of maintenance reliability. The company had restored the analyst positions, revised its compensation structure, and stopped treating senior experience as an accounting error waiting to be corrected. Reggie claimed this proved finance could learn. Marcus said we needed more data. I stayed out of that argument. The funniest part was that the call everyone remembered as the one that grounded the fleet was not what changed my life. The call only exposed what had already been broken. What changed me came afterward. I stopped measuring my value by how many problems required my personal rescue. I learned to hire people smarter than me in specific rooms, let them disagree, and sometimes go home while they solved things without me. Arrowvale cut my pay because they thought experience was expensive. I spent years thinking being indispensable made me valuable. We were both wrong. Experience matters most when you use it to make other people stronger.